Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look back at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. We are proceeding with our series on Terminator.
Yeah.
I am so lucky to have founding 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger member Mike with us again.
What's good?
And we are also blessed to be joined by our good friend and new guest, Kevin. Welcome back, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me again. I'm glad I earned my spot back.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely, man. First of all, what are we all drinking tonight, boys?
Kevin?
Yeah.
What do you got over there in that tall glass?
Drinking this was more than a pint. I don't know how big this can was. It gives the true name of tall boy to a tall boy. It is a hazy IPA from Double Nickel Brewery in New Jersey.
Nice. I'm a big fan of hazy IPAs.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's Kevin is coming to us from like the Philadelphia area.
That's right. Heart of Philadelphia.
Well, I am drinking a little bourbon tonight. I always try to drink some bourbon when we're talking about Schwarzenegger. I'm drinking Widow Jane 10-year bourbon. It's pretty solid.
Very
I just
nice.
cracked it open. It was a gift from our other co-host, John, who's not with us tonight, but he's with us in spirit.
So all that slurring you heard was actually the bourbon, not Kevin.
So you,
What are
might,
you drinking,
you
Mike?
might say that he's with us in spirits.
Spirits, yes.
So I'm going old school here, and I'm drinking a tall boy Sweetwater 420, representing Atlanta here.
That's Atlanta's flagship beer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Normally I would be drinking like a juicy hazy IPA, but yeah, I got this 420.
Mike showed up empty-handed tonight, so he's got to drink what I got for him.
If I don't have a beer, something's wrong.
But yes, we're back to talk some more about Terminator. I feel like it's the movie that really sort of launched Arnold into the stratosphere as a superstar. I will try to a little bit bring us up to track on what's been happening in the movie. The year is 1984, but it's also like 2029, right? Skynet, evil Skynet, has like sent a robot killer, the Terminator, back in time to try to kill Sarah Connor. The good guys also were able to send back one warrior, this dude named Kyle Reese. So I think they're both trying to find Sarah. They finally like all converged at this nightclub, and there was a big shootout. Sarah wasn't sure who to trust, but she ended up going with Reese. And I think they're in a car and they're on the run from the Terminator.
Yeah. How
right
about
now.
trust the guy that's not trying to kill you and trust
Except Reese did look like skeezy as hell, right?
Yeah.
Like he looked like a homeless man. He was wearing homeless man clothes.
Well,
And he's
literally, I was
dirty
about to
and
say he
all
was
that.
wearing homeless man's clothes.
Literally, the pants bandit. But yeah, so that brings us up to speed. So I'll pick us up on the plot here. Basically, Reese, he's speeding through the streets of Los Angeles. He's weaving around in traffic, fucking no headlights on. I think, like, I'm thinking in the future, maybe just you never would use headlights. Maybe it helps the machines see you or something.
Sure, but I mean, he still has the C, right? Like, and I guess that's like a kind of a take on his powers are kind of like a Terminator. Like he's that in tune with
He's like adjusted.
Yeah, he's adjusted to
but
everything.
I do think there was plenty of street lights and stuff. Like it was bright enough you could see, I guess, as it is in a big city. But I just feel like you are very conspicuous driving around with no headlights.
I was about to say, like driving with no headlights is a thing in the Terminator universe, and nobody ever gets pulled over by like a random cop. Like, why don't you have your headlights on?
that would just break up the the rhythm of the chase.
Like nobody ever gets like a jaywalking ticket. Like that would just be boring.
So Sarah is in the car also. She's like in shock. She's speechless. Reese is asking her if she's okay. She's not answering. He thinks she's been shot, I think. He's concerned for her safety, clearly. I feel like that should be like clear to her.
He kind of isn't. I understand the circumstances, especially for Reese. Like, she doesn't know what's going on, but Reese knows what's going on. So he's very intense throughout this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he had been like, I don't know. I think nurturing is the wrong word, but if he had been a little softer, like talking to her, like,
which he probably
like
would
easing
have.
her into it.
He probably would have if the Terminator wasn't like right behind
there.
him, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, I think that she was wary because she was trying to figure out what's going on, and then you have Reese yelling at her at the same time. So
it's got to be scary as hell, I would think. So she's not answering. He reaches over to try to like check and see if she's okay. She starts screaming and tries to open up the door of the car and jump out. I don't really blame her for it. Reese is like grabbing her and everything like that. This strikes like a great tone between, is this like a rescue, right? Or is it a kidnapping?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's not necessarily speaking like a rescuer at this moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He needed to come off like, I don't again, not nurturing. That's the totally wrong word. But if there's a word,
well, like
he comes in hot. He comes in like he's abducted.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
If he could call like a timeout and say timeout and everything freezes and let me explain to you what's going on, he probably would. But
he knows he doesn't have time to do that.
He's driving 100 miles an hour, no headlights on, and trying to tell her like, don't do anything unless I say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's got to be scary as hell.
Maybe it would have been useful for the cops to pull him over for the no headlights, just to give him a heat check and be like, okay, let's get you grounded in the moment, like recognize what's happening here.
Honestly, would that have been a good idea though, to get Sarah into the protection of the police? Like, I understand that he is the only one that Reese is the only one that feels like he can protect Sarah, right? But if he had gotten her into the protection of the police and they had seen what this Terminator can do, then wouldn't they try to protect her? I mean, like, then you'd have more people trying to protect her than just Reese on the run. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes you wonder what exact instructions were given to him.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, obviously though, like no one's going to believe this story, right? As we see later. So it's kind of like, or even if they think they've got her safe, like, is she really safe? Because they don't really know what they're up against.
Yeah, nobody is going to believe the story until the Terminator comes in and blows up an entire police department.
Is it too late by then? Like, if he wasn't there,
you got to crack a couple of eggs to make an omelet, right?
Oh my God. I also just felt like Reese is kind of driving like a maniac, like for having such precious cargo on board. It's like he could easily just plow into another car and like Sarah dies in a car crash, and then it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
But he's telling Sarah that he's Reese. He's a soldier that's been assigned to protect her. He says she's been targeted for termination. The plot thickens. Meanwhile, the Terminator, he's driving around in this police cruiser that he had stolen off that little kind of nerdy cop at the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
He's scanning the streets for signs of Reese and Sarah. When he earlier had gone through the fire, I think it burned his hair and it burned his eyebrows off. So Arnold kind of looks weird the rest of the movie.
You know what? I was always, is that a bad wig?
I think they like, it could be a wig, I guess. Or maybe they chopped his hair.
It does definitely stand out. I was always like, his hair is like gelled to the max or something like that. And then
he looks like plasticky sort of the rest of the movie, but I think it's because people look weird without eyebrows.
He does look like the wax, like Madame Tussauds version of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought about that until right now.
Yeah, no, that's awkward. But we see that he can mimic the voice of the policeman. He's using his radio, which is a fucking like badass capability for the Terminator to have, so useful. And it makes sense, right? If you're a machine, like you're basically just sort of whatever, you sample this guy's voice, kind of anyone that you hear. So Sarah insists to Reese that he's made some kind of a mistake because she hasn't done anything. And he's telling her, but you will, like, it's important that you live. So she's very confused, like how she says, how did that man keep getting up after he was shot or whatever? And Reese explains it's not a man, it's a machine, a Terminator, Cyberdyne Systems Model 101. Now, just then, a police car appears, and Reese runs it into like another car that's parked there.
That's one thing that's always kind of bothered me about this movie is that Reese, who's the good guy, is constantly on the run from like the police and the Terminator, whereas the Terminator, who's the bad guy, literally just strolls through the city.
Yes.
Like no worries. I mean, he could be like skipping and whistling Dixie.
I feel like we talked about this previously, and it's like he's the one out here like straight killing people.
Yeah, I mean,
and he seems to be, there's no like all points bulletin out for him.
It's all about Reese. Let's get Reese. And it's nothing about, like, they had to have, like, when he killed the first Sarah Connor and
there was
daylight,
witnesses everywhere, right? Yeah,
little kids, the neighbors, everybody had to be like, yeah, there was this 6'4", 280-pound muscle-bound man that just shot this woman. But yeah, nothing about her. Let's go get the guy who stole pants from a homeless man.
It's like the menace of the city or whatever. He's like, but Reese also, when this all happened, like he sort of grabbed Sarah and shoved her down low. Like I'm thinking that he thought it was probably the Terminator in the police car at that moment. That's what I was thinking. Like, because otherwise he was real rough with her. Like the way he grabbed her to push her down low, like as if maybe to protect her from getting shot or something like that. So now another police car joins in the pursuit. Reese leads it down an alley, crashes it too. All the while, he's explaining to Sarah basically that the Terminator is not a human; it's a cyborg, a cybernetic organism, which I feel like was sort of like a new-ish type concept
for the early 80s.
Although I didn't watch a lot of the sci-fi from back then. I think of what's the dude from Alien, the first Alien, who was sort of a Ash. No, was it Ash?
Yeah, it was Ash.
The one that was Ian Holm, who was like I guess a cybernetic organism or something.
I mean, I think that stuff existed, but you had to be like super nerd to read like all the science fiction novels.
Philip K. Dick stuff.
Yeah, you had to like be deep into that.
Like cyberpunk stuff. Yeah.
You had to be deep into that kind of stuff to really get that, which I'm sure Cameron was.
Cameron like made it mainstream, you know, and him and others like George Lucas, obviously, and other shit like that. Spielberg stuff. But he says basically the Terminator is an infiltration unit, part man, part machine. Underneath it's a hyper alloy combat chassis. Microprocessor controlled, fully armored, very tough. Outside is living human tissue, flesh, skin, hair, blood, grown for the cyborgs. It's like crazy ass dialogue.
Oh, if you're hearing that in the early 80s, it's definitely like this person is on LSD.
And it's genius though to have all of this like exposition type shit coming during the middle of a car chase, because it sort of doesn't feel like normally this type of stuff would slow the movie down.
Sure. But again, it was like so new to the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like they were just like, oh, what's all that stuff, right?
So
I'm still like that.
No, it's still a badass concept. It's still feels so original and fresh and everything like that to me anyway. But
How do they grow skin and organs for, I mean, obviously
are we kind of doing that now though? Like, what about like that synthetic meat and stuff like that? That's being
they're
grown?
growing like ears off of mice. And stuff
I think
like
so.
that.
Yeah, like I feel like it was just like a matter of time until the science caught up with people's imagination or whatever. It's awesome, really.
So basically, you just insert the Terminator skeleton inside the flesh.
Right. The thing I wonder is how do you keep the flesh sort of alive?
Yeah, wouldn't you think there'd be like a
it has to have
telltale
a circulatory system and stuff? I would,
or
think.
maybe there's just,
but
like,
maybe there's a pump inside the Terminators doing that.
Or maybe there's
shit.
an expiration date we just don't know about.
Oh yeah, they could like start rotting or whatever.
No, well, no.
Although
because
we get that last Terminator movie that just came out, the one where it's like a 40 like a Terminator that's been roaming around Earth for like 40 years or whatever.
Also,
and
I think in Terminator 2 or is it Terminator 3? No, Terminator 3. Where doesn't he say he has like a life cycle of like 1,000 years or something like that?
Oh, is that right? I don't know.
Like when he throws away like his processor, his microprocessor, and it explodes. It's like a nuclear processor.
Oh, yeah.
I think he says he has like a lifespan of like 10,000 years.
I mean, that would be a huge oversight for the machines to be like, we've created like a nuclear processor that keeps it alive for 10,000 years. But like the flesh rots within 28 hours. Or
so basically, it's like a walking zombie.
Yeah. It was like a banana or something. Like it just like it starts turning, like changing color or whatever. Oh, it's gone bad.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But so Reese whips the car into this parking deck, says they got to switch cars. Basically, he explains that the older Terminators had rubber skin. They were easy to spot, but these new ones are like impossible. Says they look human, they have sweat, bad breath, everything.
Except they're all 6'4" and muscle bound. Like that's got to be a telltale, right?
Yeah, that's true. Like, does every T-800 look like Arnold?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, or they're similar, right?
The same type of build.
Yeah, same type of
whatever?
build. I mean,
well,
build
yeah,
a-
if you got that size skeleton underneath, I guess
Yeah.
the man or whatever is
build
gotta
a Terminator
be that
that's
big.
a little old lady, right? And you never see it coming.
Although,
You know?
Which
wait,
the liquid, they perfected it with the liquid metal, maybe, because that could take any form.
Yeah.
yeah, but even in like one of the, well, I guess it's a flash forward, not a flash back, when he's in like the barracks in the future, there is
Yeah.
one that infiltrates, and it looks like a normal dude, kind of.
That was we'll get to it, but that's like he was another bodybuilder.
Yeah, I
that was
think
that
he was
Franco,
like a-
that was Franco Columbo.
He didn't look like
Really?
Arnold, but he was like a big bodybuilder.
but he
yeah.
wasn't 6'4". He was more like a middleweight bodybuilder.
Uh-huh.
He was in the weight class below Arnold. He's like Arnold's best friend, I think, or maybe one of his best friends who died recently. I think
I thought,
Sven-Ole Thorsen, like, and
yeah, that's what
that
I
was like
yeah.
their crew or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was his homie.
roided up like crew, all riding motorcycles together and shit. But yeah, so Reese says basically he didn't know this thing was the Terminator until it walked right up on him and pulled the gun.
I call bullshit on that.
Mm.
Like he saw him walk into the club. Hey, there's this 6 foot. Now I'm not saying he should have just blasted him, but he had to have a clue that was the Terminator, right?
Well, I dig that like it's genius. It's the genius of Cameron that he made like a weakness, a limitation that he had probably as a filmmaker into a strength, where it was like, you couldn't have a robot the whole movie. You didn't have the special effects for that. So you needed to make a robot that looked like a man. Right. So that you could just have a human being the actor. Like, but then it becomes a strength of the plot of the movie, I think, that he blends in.
Yeah, but I also think you can't just have a robot running around in reality either.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, nothing's stopping the Terminator, but yeah, you're right. Like the army would get involved.
Yeah.
We always joke around in the movie Commando, the Schwarzenegger flick. Like they just talk about the federal people, and they never really say who the fuck that is. Like, let's call the federal people.
I
It's
mean,
like, what is that? So the federal people would show up and shut this Terminator
Now,
down.
we all know there's the government, and then there's the government, right?
You got the Men in Black and all that type
Exactly.
shit.
There's stuff that Arnold knows that we don't know, and I like it that way.
But yeah, Sarah says, that type of technology does not exist yet. And Reese says, no, but it doesn't exist, not for about 40 years. So she's like, wait, are you saying you're from the future? And he says, and I dig this, he says, I'm from one possible future. Like he admits that he doesn't really even understand it all himself. But I feel like that's like an early example of like a multiverse type of theory. Like we
deep.
could change it, right? So I'm from one possible future, maybe not the only future that could ever happen. Whatever, I dig that.
Yeah, that means Cameron sat around and had that conversation about, like, if we send this guy back to the past, what's that going to mean for like new future timelines? Like he had to have that conversation in order to put that line in there, which is
I
kind of
always
cool.
wonder about this shit because I mean, this literally can't be the first time that this shit's played. Like, we'll get to it later because it will fuck you up, but it's like a chicken or the egg situation where how could there be a John Connor existing to send Reese back if Reese hadn't already been sent back to Father John Connor?
Yeah, If you,
we can talk about it at length later. I think I have it like in my to-do list.
Well,
I think shit we've got to examine.
I think that's the beauty of movies is they don't require to think that much. It was like look at what's on screen and just follow that. Because I think if you start thinking too much about, especially like movies that go into the future and the past, then your head will explode.
Mm-hmm. I will say, as time travel movies go, this one like is the plot is buttoned up pretty tight. I think like it's tightly wound.
He kept it simple, right? Like it's not like Back in the Future where you go back in the past and then you go back into the same past as the same person.
Although I think
like,
Back to the Future might be like wound up about as tight also as any time travel plot. Like it seems like it's airtight. But so Sarah says, wait, you're from the future too? Reese says yes. I don't even know what you would think if you were in her shoes and like someone's telling you all this shit. Like, could you possibly believe them?
Nah, I think I think at the point where he's describing a cybernetic organism, I'm like, this guy's on drugs. And then hits me with time travel. And I'm like, okay, this drugs and insanity. I would be, I'd probably disassociate. I'd be like, I'm out. I can't.
So you sound like the policeman. You sound like that doctor, whatever, Silverman.
Yeah.
Coming to later. Like, you're like, oh, hell no. I mean, I don't blame you. Like, I don't see how you could possibly buy this yet, right? Except someone did try to kill you, and this guy did try to save you, it seems like.
And you did see him get up, I guess, multiple times after being, like, blasted with a sawed-off shotgun.
So we've seen the movie, right? So if somebody busted into this house right now with a shotgun and tried to kill us, my next thought wouldn't be, oh, that guy's from the future, right? Like, and if somebody, you would be so stressed that I don't know if your mind could comprehend all of that. So maybe that's why she's kind of like, what the hell is going on right now? You know?
I think that's where Sarah is like, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but this is all kind of unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right?
We would get it because we've seen plenty of movies,
We've seen enough movies.
Yeah.
We're willing to believe anything.
I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, so Sarah acts like she sort of buys into what he's saying, and then she tries to escape again, and Reese grabs her, and she bites down on his hand, like, really hard, and he sort of stops her and says, you know, cyborgs don't feel pain, but I do. And she went deep, like,
yeah.
Because I noticed, like, on my Blu-ray or whatever, he's got, like, a big old sort of, like, bloody, almost, like, chunk out of his hand or whatever.
I mean, like, I think Cameron is basically trying to say that Reese is a Terminator, but just a human.
Yeah, he's like,
But he's a human.
It was some restraint from Reese not to just, like, punch her in the face, too, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? But so she begs for him to just let her go. He's like, this is one of the standout bits of dialogue, I think. He's like, you know, listen and understand the Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead.
Yeah, there's like a gravitas to that line right there.
James
right?
Cameron's a hell of a writer.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think that gets sort of reused in later films. And doesn't she sort of reiterate a similar line to her son in T2? Like, I feel like there's a similar line.
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of.
Yeah, she definitely becomes Reese in Terminator 2.
I mean, there's a lot of repetition in the whole franchise of, like, reusing sort of lines and things like that, which is it fan service or is it, like, intentional? I don't really know. But he put so much passion into it that it seems like she sort of believes him, or at least she believes that he believes it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
The first time viewer that I was watching this with had said, like, even if you didn't believe Reese, you might still roll with him because at least he seems very serious about keeping you alive.
And protecting you from that other guy that you saw try to kill you, yeah.
So she asked Reese, can you kill the Terminator? And he says, I don't know. With these weapons, I don't know. Which is also, like, a great line because it sets up for, like, you just don't know what's going to happen in this plot. Like, this dude's indestructible or whatever.
Is it possible for Reese, because the Terminator doesn't have like a homing beacon or like a tracker inside Sarah, right? So is it possible that Reese could come there and then he flies her off to Hawaii and then she changes her name?
Yeah. I think that's the plan.
So the
right?
Terminator never finds her.
I think that's the plan, is to whisk her off somewhere in the world where she'd be hidden. It's weird though, because by doing that, right, you're changing the future. Like, you're changing how could she meet John's dad then if she wasn't living the life that she was meant to have been living.
Other than the fact that we know who
yeah. It's all very weird. But yes, I have theories about that too. But I think that was his plan, is to, like, get her out of the city and off the grid, and then the Terminator would never be able to find her again.
Sure.
Because he has no way to communicate with the future or anything like that.
And do you think that they would eventually try to stop? Because Reese knows that there's a nuclear war coming, right? Do you think they would try to eventually stop that?
I feel like his mission is just to keep Sarah alive so that John Connor can beat Skynet or whatever later. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, we'll get to this too. But yes, trying to stop the war is, like, the most logical thing to try to do, right?
Well, and I think as soon as they introduce that line about, from one possible future, it introduces so many possibilities of what they could do once that they hear that, right?
Sure.
You know what you could have done with this franchise that would have been crazy is like having different Terminators from different timelines coming back to the same, 1984 before the timeline sort of forked off, like the alternate 1985.
Yeah.
Like different Terminators with different capabilities and stuff like that, But I mean, they kind of do that anyway. But
or send a Terminator to kill Sarah Connor's dad or something like that.
They accept that Cameron because he's a genius. He like explained all this. He said we don't know anything about Sarah Connor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Except that like all the records were lost in the war. The only thing we know is that in 1984 she was living in Los Angeles. I don't even know how they know that, and nothing else. But they don't know, what hospital she was born in or anything, or her birthday or who her parents. Like they don't know anything except we can find her in 1984 in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so that definitely explains why they never go back any farther than her.
Yeah, it's pretty great, man. But so the Terminator, he's still cruising, he's scanning the streets. Arnold is an effective performer when he doesn't have to talk. Like when he's just being silent, like he really gives a great performance. Like he looks menacing and all that type shit that you want. Another police cruiser spots the car that Reese had been driving in that parking garage and puts out the call on the radio. Terminator hears that and he whips a U-turn in the middle of the road and heads out. It's like, oh shit.
And nobody's ever trying to catch the Terminator, right? That is just all. I mean,
the dude who just like either killed or assaulted a police officer,
and shot up a nightclub.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I guess, yeah, they're so intent on finding
Reese,
this car and not the dude
it makes no sense.
Who killed people in the nightclub.
Like, so I know that she keeps saying that Cameron is a brilliant writer, and I agree with you, but then it's like the flip side, it's like these huge like plot holes.
Well, maybe this like, that movie, The Other Guys, the one with Wahlberg and Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's like these other cops that we never see that are looking for the nightclub shooter.
I guess.
We just never get to see them because they're not important.
Yeah, that's all B-roll. Yeah, I don't know.
But the police, they're scouring the parking garage. Sarah and Reese, they find another unlocked car and they get in. There were just a ton of police cars in the parking garage at this point. But maybe there would be after the big shootout. Like maybe it is like every fucking cop in the city is, on the hunt for the people involved in this thing.
Yeah.
But Sarah wants to know, why does the Terminator want to kill her? It's like finally, I feel like we're halfway through the movie and we're finally getting to
the actual movie,
explaining what is going on here with the plot, right?
Yeah.
Reese explains, there's going to be a nuclear war in a few years that's going to destroy the world. He's reloading his shotgun. He's telling her the history of the future. He's explaining, these supercomputers, they were entrusted to run the defense networks. But then the computers, he says, got smart and turned on their masters and aimed to wipe out like all humans. It's like a super sophisticated concept, especially I feel like for that year, like of artificial intelligence.
I mean, isn't that what The Matrix is?
Yeah. There was another awesome movie from around this same time, 1983, called War Games.
Oh,
You see that, the one with Matthew Broderick?
Yeah, the Whopper.
Where it was it was a similar plot, right? Of like a computer that's running the NORAD and everything like that. And like the computer would decide if we're launching the missiles or not. But it was also another movie that was ahead of its time. Like I feel like that was like the first time you ever saw the internet or anything like that.
He's using the phone on the modem.
Yeah, it was crazy, like to hack into the video game companies or whatever.
I mean, he used the payphone. You remember?
Yeah, he was like smart as fuck.
Yeah, to get some free calls or something.
I feel like, he opened up the receiver and he like put a piece of foil or something.
Yeah, he put like a soda top can.
That movie is fucking great as well.
Yeah.
And crazy ahead of its time. Also awesome. I love that movie.
The only way to win is to not play the game.
Yeah, man.
Not to give anything away.
Global thermonuclear war. That's like, yeah, it's awesome stuff. So Reese, he goes to work hot wiring the car. I feel like this is like the third different method of hot wiring a car that we've seen in this movie so far. These dudes are well versed in hot wiring cars. Yeah. So Sarah asks Reese, if he saw the war. He says he grew up afterwards in the ruins. He says the machines rounded up all the survivors and they sent them to extermination camps. And then he shows her this barcode that he has like branded onto his arm.
Yeah.
Which is also like obvious like Holocaust
I was about to say,
imagery and everything.
Cameron's
like
not that I know that he's not Jewish, right?
No, I don't think so. It's just a well thought out thing, whatever. And I like the idea that these computers using barcodes. Although now it'd be like a QR code or something, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But no, I dig that shit. So some survivors, he says, were kept alive to run the disposal units. But there was this one man who organized the survivors and taught them how to fight back against the machines. And he turned the tide of the war. And that dude's name was John Connor, Sarah's unborn son.
She's getting a lot of information thrown at her in like the span of. This all happened in what, like from
Like
the time
10 minutes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from the time she went to the movies to right now was
I mean, it's probably only been an hour or two that she's felt like she was
Out of the
in
movies.
danger.
Yeah.
When I was watching with a fresh viewer, like the person, that girl who had never seen the movie was like hooked at this point on the
It's a good
plot.
movie.
She's like, "Is this just a great fucking plot?" Right now, the Terminator has arrived at the parking garage. He continues his search. He does this badass thing where he's like scanning back and forth with his eyes or whatever. And I think Schwarzenegger said, he thought it like the Terminator would sort of be like a surveillance camera
Mhm.
or something, like where he's just like sort of the eyes are tracking back and forth, always looking for the target. Reese cranks up that car and the noise catches the attention of the Terminator. Terminator just opens fire as Reese squeals out of there. I mean, there's other. I see you shrugging, Mike, and you're like frustrated. But
Why did he just automatically stop shooting at that car?
who, the Terminator?
Yeah,
Terminator kills whoever, right?
true, but
Maybe he doesn't care if it's her or not.
so not true because he doesn't just roll down the street killing people, right? He goes after his target. And so did he know that was Sarah and Reese in the car?
Maybe he did a calculation where it's like, if there's a 5% chance that this is Sarah Connor, then it's worth opening fire. He's got that Texas Instruments calculator built into his head, the graphing calculator. But so the chase is back on.
And I love the old school speeding up the video to make the chase scene faster.
Yeah, I think he stole that from like Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
They're exchanging gunfire. The Terminator is chasing them out onto the streets. The Terminator does a lot of shooting and missing, I felt like, in this movie. Like, he's not, the type of shooter that like RoboCop is or something in other movies where a robot just never misses, kind of. But I also think these are like really tough shots that the Terminator's taken. Like, try to shoot from a moving car to hit someone in another moving car
But
is like a difficult shot to make.
not for the Terminator. He's a robot.
Well, like, I've always heard that I was watching some Navy SEALs type shit, and they were saying like they were training snipers to take like sniper shots from a helicopter at a target, and they said like trying to hit a moving target from a helicopter is like the most difficult shot that there is that you can make, because you're like on a moving platform kind of, and you're shooting at something that's moving,
Yeah.
and it's just like real tough or whatever. But I don't really know what's more realistic, if it was that he never misses, or if he misses sometimes just because you can't always hit your target.
If RoboCop can shoot a dude in the nuts between a girl's dress, then the Terminator can shoot
Dude,
somebody in a moving car while moving.
Mike, I don't know if I made you watch this, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, Kevin, but some fans made a clip of that scene from RoboCop where he shoots, like the muggers are trying to attack that woman, and he shoots the dude in the dick or whatever, and then all these other muggers come out, and he's just shooting them all in the dick, like as they all come out.
Yeah.
Dude, I will send you guys the link afterwards. It's incredible, but
I've
it
never
is
seen
the
that.
most graphic, like gruesome thing. Someone spent a lot of money on prosthetic dicks on this thing, because like the dicks are out and they're like exploding. And stuff like
Is
that.
this on YouTube?
Someone, like, fans made it on YouTube.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude, we'll find it. I'll send you guys the link.
Yeah.
It will change your whole outlook on things.
I mean, I think this clearly connects back to our previous recording on this about whether there is an actual accurate dick on the Terminator or not. And I think based on this conversation, probably not.
Now, the chase is continuing. Reese tells Sarah to take the wheel. He climbs out the window of this car to take a better shot. And I saw an interview with Michael Biehn where he said, like, only later on did he realize just how dangerous this shit was that they were having him do.
Oh, that was really him?
That was him, like, hanging out sort of sitting out the window and shooting across the roof of the car. Like, I mean, I'm sure they had him strapped in or something, but still.
And
like, something could happen. You're hanging out the window of a car.
I guarantee they were not going as fast as what they look like they're going.
Nah, but still, they might have been going 25 or 30. Like, fast enough to be unsafe. I guess.
I think actors back then were, if you ever look at like a Jackie Chan interview and he's talking about like the early days of filmmaking for him, where he did all his stunts, and I'm sure he still does, right? And like that stuff was real, right? Like, that's just what actors That's what just actors did. And Michael Biehn has always seemed like that kind of actor who is, like, I'm actually surprised he even said anything about it that was scary, because he seems like the kind of actor that would be all in it and would have no problem hanging out of a window shooting a gun.
Well, I feel like back in this day, like the sort of Grindhouse era day, and you're on like low budget, that actors were probably just felt like they were expected to do as much as they could on their own, you know? So they're shooting back and forth, right? Reese shoots out the windshield of the police car, and I feel like it's that shot that like maybe fucked up the Terminator's eye. Like I feel like all this shattered glass flew in on him.
Yeah, doesn't he reel back?
Pellets, maybe?
I think he reels back at that.
Yeah. Now they're rapidly approaching this dead end, and Sarah calls out for Reese to get back inside the car. At the very last second, Sarah slams on the brakes and whips the car to a stop. Terminator just drives head on into this brick wall. It's like a spectacular crash.
Yeah.
There was no way that there was a human being in that car that drove into the wall. You know
like,
I mean?
even
Like
a
they must
stunt
have
actor?
had that thing just rigged up on a cable or a remote control or some shit, because that was a crazy crash.
I don't know. There's some crazy stuff out there.
Stuntman Mike?
Ain't that crazy.
Stuntman Bob? So more police show up, and Reese is sort of struggling to get the car started back up. Reese is like, Sarah's trying to stop him or whatever, right? Because Reese wants to shoot it out with the police.
Which is interesting, because you'd think she wouldn't care, right?
She really is grown attached to Reese, I guess.
Yeah.
I understand Reese not wanting her to fall into the police's hands.
I get that,
because like he can't protect her anymore.
But why does it seems
but
like
she should she's very concerned for his safety.
Yeah.
I guess she believes that I guess she believes him.
Well, maybe she just doesn't want him to die, even if she doesn't believe his story, right?
Yeah, even if he's just a crazy man, then maybe she has sympathy for him.
Sure, yeah.
Now, what's crazy is the police get there, they take Reese and Sarah into custody, and they go to check out the other car, and the car's empty now. The Terminator's gone.
20 police, right? 20 police there. And the 6'4", 280-pound muscle-bound man walks away.
No one noticed.
And unnoticed.
I'm more like questioning, why did he walk away?
Why didn't he just go after Sarah?
Why didn't he kill Sarah?
Yeah.
Why did he stop and flee?
What does he care about the police, right?
Yeah, that's what 20 police are going to stop him?
Yeah.
No.
The only thing I can think of is that he was damaged, and maybe he didn't think he could operate at 100%. That's the only reason I
think
he did that.
The only thing I feel like that makes sense is that maybe he feels like his chances of defeating all the police, if he's got a gimp, like his one arm doesn't work or something, and he can't see
he didn't have
good
an
anymore,
eye,
is that he won't be successful. He'd rather regroup.
I think he went back to think about his life choices. I think he was like, look, I'm a Terminator. I'm shooting in a moving car. I should be able to hit these humans. And I've been shooting for 20 minutes, missing them every time. I don't think I'm good at my job. I got to reassess.
He's like, I've got a working dick. Yeah. Maybe like I should be putting my efforts forward.
You know, I'm in LA. It's the early 80s. There's the porn industry.
I just had an idea, and as soon as I had the idea, I was like, I know it won't work, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Why wouldn't you program a Terminator to explode?
Like to self-destruct?
To self-destruct.
Like a suicide bomber.
Take out the person that he's with. But if you did that, he'd only get one chance, right? Because if he got the wrong Sarah, then he couldn't do the mission anymore. Right?
They should have that capability, like the Predator or whatever. If you're
like
ever like cornered or whatever, if you're like facing certain defeat, then you self-destruct. But yeah, as we see in the Terminator 2, right? Like he says, I'm programmed. I can't self-terminate.
Yeah.
But you're right. If it was the difference in killing your target, I would think you should be able to do it.
Yeah, you can't self-destruct. Like you can't blow yourself up, but you could blow yourself up if you were killing your target. Yeah.
Yeah. I had one other thought that came to me while we were talking about maybe why he fled, is maybe he'd spent all of his weapons, right? Like he had no bullets left, or he had shot every bullet from every gun that he had on him.
He strangled her, broke her neck.
he could have torn those police limb from limb, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, it goes back to the brilliant writing, but then major plot holes.
There's a little, but I never thought about it until this viewing of the movie. Like, really wondered why he didn't just stick around and kill her.
Because he's right there, right? His car is right there.
He seemed like he could have easily torn the door off that car and
he could have easily, and police weren't even close, right? They were like
were they like a minute later or something like that.
And they were pretty far away when they stopped, right?
Yeah,
He could have just walked out the car and just went over to Sarah and just snapped her neck. End of movie.
But he didn't do that, thank God.
Yeah.
Because now we got more movie to talk about.
And a whole franchise.
So later on at the police station, Detective Traxler, he's given Sarah a cup of coffee. He's got his partner with him there, Vukovic, and this new character who we don't know who that is yet. Sarah, it seems like, has just learned that Ginger and Matt got killed. I had like fucking forgotten about them by this point in the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, Ginger and Matt.
Yeah.
I guess that did just happen.
Yeah.
That would tear Sarah up to learn about it, right?
Yeah, she loved those two. They were like brother and sister to her, right?
Yeah,
and
basically.
She loved them.
So
she's really messed up by that.
Traxler introduces her to this new guy, Dr. Silberman, played by the actor Earl Bowen. He's a criminal psychologist. This dude gives a fucking incredible performance, doesn't he?
He definitely has fun with it for sure.
Yeah, man. He's like just going for it.
Is he in all the Terminator movies? I know he's in the first two.
He's in two. He
might
might turn up in three in a cameo.
He's in three also.
Yeah, I think he shows up like when they're at the graveyard or some shit.
Yeah, he's like an Easter egg.
But I don't think he's in any others. He probably aged out, you know. So they want Sarah to tell them everything that's happened. And she's basically like, is Reese crazy? And they say, well, that's what we're going to find out. So elsewhere, we see the damaged Terminator. He's gone back to his hotel room through the fire escape. His right hand is like malfunctioning. He performs this sort of repairs on the inner workings of his forearm, which is some pretty nasty effects.
Yeah.
Like we talked earlier about how watching this as kids, you were like, damn, this shit's nasty.
Yeah.
Like when he's got the X-Acto knife and he's like poking around in there. There's all this like blood and mechanics and stuff.
I mean, honestly, it's that kind of stuff that really, really sticks with you.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Great movie overall, but it's really those kind of scenes that really like you remember.
Yeah, for sure. Now, back at the police station, Dr. Silberman, he's interviewing Reese in the interrogation room. Reese is explaining he's a soldier from the future. He serves under John Connor in a war against the computer defense system called Skynet. It was built by Cyberdyne Systems for the Defense Department. I feel like it's just such a fully developed like concept that James Cameron had about he had every company's name already, picked out and stuff like that. Silberman is sort of goading Reese. He's like saying, and this computer thinks it can kill the mother of its enemy, killing him in effect before he's conceived. He calls it retroactive abortion.
Yeah. He's kind of being a dick.
Yeah, no, I think he's like baiting
Stay
Reese,
on the,
right?
the dick momentum.
Vukovic is like watching and cracking up as they're like doing this, but Traxler seems a little intrigued. There was like these deleted scenes where Traxler was like inclined to believe Reese and Sarah, like, and everyone else was skeptical, but all that shit got cut out, I think, just to make the movie move faster. So Silverman is asking, why doesn't Skynet just kill John Connor in the future? And Reese is explaining, that we've already dealt like the fatal blow to Skynet. So killing Connor in the future is not going to make a difference anymore. They had to like erase his entire existence. A fucking great premise, man.
Yeah.
I keep saying it, but sorry. So Reese explains, that they had captured Skynet's time displacement equipment after the Terminator had already been sent through. So John Connor sent Reese through to protect Sarah, and then they were going to destroy the time machine as soon as he went through, so no one else could come through.
A movie about time travel, they don't really focus on the time travel machine that much in these movies.
In this particular movie?
In this, or any of them, really.
There's no, like...
That seems like a huge weapon, right? Like, if you're fighting a war and you have a time machine, but you know what I'm saying, right? That's that's...
Yeah, but
probably more powerful
you sometimes wonder if you had gone back and whatever, killed this person or that person, like, you don't know if it might somehow make things worse.
I just feel like a movie about time travel doesn't really talk about the time travel machinery. Like, and I feel like...
How it works. No, they never explain, but I mean, I think it's because there's no real way to make it work, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But every other, like, there's the Back to the Future, there's the, whatchamacallit, the
DeLorean?
DeLorean. Like every
But they don't
time.
explain like how it works.
Oh, the flux capacitor was, I believe, very well explained. It's triangular.
Exactly.
I find myself thinking that the good guys should have like sent a few more guys through.
Yeah.
Not just Reese by himself. Like maybe send through.
Oh, but they couldn't because I think when Reese went through, they blew blew up the.
Then they blew it up after they sent him through.
After
But
they
like
sent
you
him-
could have sent through a few more guys.
Well, send 5 in and then
Yeah.
blow it up. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I did see where, like, in the original draft of the script, they had sent through 2 humans, and like one of the dudes, the second dude who wasn't Reese, like he materialized like in the fire escape with like all the rods and ladders and stuff of the fire escape. Where like he was like skewered on this thing
That
and
would've
died right there on the scene.
I shouldn't laugh.
That would have been fucking crazy.
That would have been cool because then it would show that the machine wasn't perfect and.
But I think in trying to cut money, they were like, well, this is just an unnecessary
Sure,
thing.
that would have
But
been.
it's such a cool idea.
That would have been really cool.
So back at the Terminator's hotel room, he's like removing his ruptured eyeball, and we see he's got this glowing red eye underneath. It was fucking nasty, man. This was like one of the things where the special effects were a little bit lacking, like that the Schwarzenegger puppet head, or whatever,
Yeah, it
just
was
did not
bad.
look lifelike at all.
It didn't age well, I should say. I'm sure that when it came out, it was like
It was
awesome,
probably as
but-
good as you could get in
But yeah,
1984, right?
But they have made Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but was there ever a human puppet head that looked good in any of those?
I guess what I'm trying to say is this was more of a budgetary thing than it was
Yeah.
the effects weren't available.
Yeah, it was just a little wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, those shots are the shakiest in the movie. But I did see where like the hands that you see moving around like and doing shit are Arnold's real hands.
No.
They
mhm.
like couldn't find another like a hand double for Arnold. His hands were like too jacked,
Yeah.
and muscular or whatever.
I will say that, and basing this off of T2 also, like Cameron is like a loves film, right? And loves the magic of filmmaking. So he would do stuff like have a fake puppet head, but have like the real actor's hands
Oh yeah,
doing stuff
I
instead
feel
of
like he's like that Peter Jackson type dude.
Yeah.
Like he knows all the tricks.
yeah.
Like how to, because he grew up doing special effects
Sure.
and stuff. Like he knows all the tricks.
Like a lot
to
of in
cheat
camera
things.
type of effects.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
So Terminator throws on a pair of sunglasses to hide his eye, and he adjusts his hair and walks out. I always remember the hair moment. Like he was like concerned about his appearance. Or whatever. Those sunglasses were like, I feel like iconic. The gargoyle sunglasses. They were like, those shits were hot. Like in the early '80s. Dirty Harry wore those same sunglasses
Really?
in one of the movies. Yeah, in one of the sequels or whatever. Those things are still available. That same model.
I mean, they're badass glasses.
I feel like it'd be cool to like step out wearing those now.
Yeah.
So the Terminator, he collects some more guns from this arsenal that he has under the mattress, and he climbs back out the window. So back at the police station, Sarah's watching the tape of the Reese interview with Silberman, Traxler, and Vukovic. Silberman is asking Reese why he didn't bring any like futuristic tech with him. And Reese is explaining that nothing dead can pass through something. He says something about the field generated by a living organism. Another like amazing bit of back and forth where Silberman's asking him like, well, why? And Reese is like, I didn't build the fucking thing.
I feel like this is Cameron talking to himself. Like,
Yeah,
how
dude.
do I explain all this stuff?
Well, it's great, right? Because this dude, he wouldn't know.
Yeah.
The machines built this shit, right? Like though how weird is it that the machines build a time machine that only living things could go through?
Yeah. Yeah, seriously.
Right?
Do you think he's like, as he's writing this, he's like, I'm trying to imagine the biggest like nerd that is watching this movie who might poke holes. And then I try to
He's
address
thinking-
those in the exposition.
He's like 38 years from now.
Yeah,
there's gonna be some
so he
dudes
totally didn't
sitting
expect
around
this podcast,
talking, picking it apart. The other thing is, except in the sequels, right, where these liquid metal Terminators are coming through, no problem. But maybe that's a different,
still-
maybe
yeah.
that's a newer and improved time machine or something.
Yeah, that's
different,
right.
different
He doesn't-
future.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is no organic.
Yeah, none of the
Nothing organic
Terminators
about him.
after, other than the T-800, are all like
That girl, what was she?
she was liquid metal with like a
Oh, she was liquid
with
metal
with a
also?
skeleton underneath. Yeah, so she could like sort of split herself into 2 Terminators.
Yeah, he didn't care, man. It was just like make a movie.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Well, I think he liked that liquid metal idea so much that he's like, fuck
I mean,
it.
can you blame him? Like,
No,
look at
that was
that
incredible,
special effects
man.
was awesome.
But yeah, so the Terminator in this movie, the Terminator is able to pass through, right, because he's covered in living tissue. So Silberman, he marvels at how clever Reese's story is. He's like saying, this story doesn't require any proof. Most paranoid delusions are intricate, but this one's brilliant. On the video, Reese is explaining that most of the records were lost in the war, that all that Skynet knew about Sarah is that she lived in Los Angeles. So the deaths of the other Sarah Connors, they were just collateral damage. So but here's the thing, what do the police think is going on here? Do they think that Reese killed the other Sarahs?
That's a good question. I don't get the
if they don't think he killed the other Sarahs, then they should be looking for the Sarah killer.
I don't think that he's a suspect.
I don't think so either. They should be looking for the phone book killer.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
right?
that way, right? Yeah, I never thought about that. But yeah, it doesn't feel like they're thinking he's the suspect in all the killings. They just know
he's mixed up in it, I guess.
He's just mixed up in it somehow, and they just need to keep her safe, right? So yeah, again, I don't know why they're not. I mean, in the real world, they would probably have a unit that's out looking for the phone book killer, right?
And there probably is. Like
I just don't talk about it in the movie.
Or whatever is doing it.
Yeah.
But Reese gets frustrated. He's fed up with Silverman's questions. He says, "I need to see Sarah Connor." Then he says, "This is another one of those great James Cameron lines. It's like, you still don't get it, do you? He'll find her." That's what he does. That's all he does.
I was going to say a couple seconds ago, do you think that this movie is great because of the story, or do you think it's great because of the actors?
This moment from Michael Biehn is incredible. Like, some of these lines, I feel like they definitely cast the right dude, right, to play Reese. Yeah, it's hard to imagine what it would be like with other actors, but I think the story is so good. Like, if you cast competent actors, it would have been an awesome movie.
Sure, because this movie is, like, you take one step this way or one step that way, this could have been just some B movie from the 80s, right?
But yeah, like, if it wasn't James Cameron, if it was like, and they didn't want him to, the studios liked the movie, but they didn't want him to direct it. So, like, if you threw some other shitty director at it, like, it could have easily turned out horrible, right?
It's definitely a diamond in the rough.
Especially if you had the studio, like, trying to cut costs and stuff like that, or like, do we really need this? Do we really need, like, maybe we should, make it, add more jokes. Maybe we should make it funnier.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, a million ways it could have gone wrong.
No, they got a bunch of filmmakers who love film and did it all for the right reasons, I think.
I mean, it feels like it was the right storyline for the right cast of actors. Like, and I think that's what's so interesting about this sort of being so early in Schwarzenegger's career, right? Is like, he's not charismatic like he is, arguably in some of his later movies, like where he can actually be kind of funny and play that role. Like, it's a very, very straight, very like limited bandwidth, but it works so well for him. But I feel like I couldn't imagine
physically,
it.
I think sorry.
I was just gonna say, I couldn't imagine it with like a different cast of actors. Like, it just feels like that was the right group for this storyline.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I feel like physically Schwarzenegger has got charisma. Like, he just has presence on screen. But you're right. Like, as a performer, as an actor, I think he was still trying to figure it out what his strengths and weaknesses were.
And he doesn't even show off his physicality in this movie, right? Like, he doesn't have a shirt off, or he doesn't wearing like tight shirts.
Only when he first showed up, right?
Yeah, other than that part, yeah.
Yeah, so Reese, he begins describing like in detail about how the Terminator will kill Sarah and how they are not going to be able to stop it. And Traxler's like telling Silverman to please turn the tape off, where he's like saying, he's going to reach down her throat and he's going to rip her fucking heart out. Or whatever. And he's sort of struggling to find the pause button or whatever. And he's like, sorry about that.
Yeah, which is funny enough. The Terminator wouldn't even do that. He'd just shoot her, right?
And then it's like Reese is starting to like fight with the police officers or whatever. But so Sarah's like asked, so is Reese crazy? And Silverman says, technical terminology, he's a loon. And I mean, I guess they would have to think that, right? Because what's the alternative, that he's right about everything? That would be so much more far-fetched than that he's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, they couldn't be like, there's a guy from the future. So
they could never write that in our police report.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we turned Sarah and Reese loose because
he's
the
right.
future robot was after him, Yeah. But so this is the moment. This is kind of great. Traxler shows Sarah this bulletproof vest. And he says, this other individual must have been wearing one of these, which like the other individual, I feel like you mean the dude who you should be looking for right now, right? The dude who is like actually trying to kill
the actual
Sarah.
murderer.
And then she's like, well, what about when he punched through the windshield? And Vukovic is like, oh, he's probably on PCP. Broke every bone in his hand. You wouldn't feel it for hours. There was this guy once. You see this scar? And, Traxler like cuts them off.
Yeah.
Henriksen was awesome.
There's a lot of like subtle comedy in this film.
I love that. It's awesome. So Traxler tries to urge Sarah to please try to get some sleep, while you wait for your mother to arrive. Sarah says she doesn't think she's going to be able to sleep, but Traxler assures her, you're perfectly safe here. We've got 30 cops in this building, he says. Fucking good luck with that. Right?
Yeah,
That
seriously.
fucking famous last words, man.
Yep, seriously. It's kind of like the mother saying, "Oh, I love you," and she's dead, right?
It's like that. Don't worry, I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
let's split up.
Oh, you're so dead.
Oh my gosh. But that's a great place to leave it because we got the film's probably most iconic moment just
Absolutely.
right around the corner. So we will get to that next week and we hope you will join us. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all of our fans on the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network for listening also. And if you love what we're doing, check out some of the other podcasts on the network. They're similarly amazing and awesome. That'll do it for this week and we'll be back.
All right, talk to you later.
You